We're going to talk about active model serializers. Have you gotten to serializers yet?
I am by hitting APIs with Faraday.
Okay. So let's see. Once you get done learning how to import information from an API, the next step is basically learning how to imitate an API, or rather like create your own. So Rails is really useful for just handling these days, more often Rails just handles the model and the controller and leaves the view up to you, rather than using a lot of like index.html.erb or like whatever.html.erb, because more and more people are wanting to just use JavaScript front ends and just use like some kind of framework like React or Angular or Vue or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So Rails still has a place, which is to just accept requests from wherever and then send back some JSON. And it can handle all of your persisting models and object interactions and stuff on the server side still, and just handle less of the view. So the way that works is, let's take a look at it actually. So I think I'm already sharing my screen, right? You can see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see.
So instead of putting nothing or render a particular view, it'll say render JSON, and then we can say at posts. This is like a blog app, so it's like there's authors and posts, and so this is going to render JSON. So let's see if we can actually see that in action.
So we're passing in at posts to the JSON as a, I don't even know how to explain that, but we're passing in that data. That data right now is saved in an instance variable, right?
Yeah, so we just grabbed all our posts just like normal,
Right.
and then we can say render JSON and then pass it
that piece of data.
Yeah, and it'll automatically translate it into JSON. So let's see if it's working. Awesome. So we got 3 posts, and we're seeing it in this JSON format. So let's see. This is, I believe, I'm not sure yet. Let's look at how we're showing a post, because then, so if I go to like post/1, I get this. And this is using a little bit more of a manual way of doing it, where you take a post object and you can say .to_JSON, and this will basically convert the object into JSON.
Mm-hmm.
That you can optionally include arguments. So if I didn't put these, I believe I can just get rid of this.
Wait, what's?
I get this.
What's the difference from what you did on line 6 and now on 12? Aren't they the same thing?
I'll show you. But this is sort of the original way of doing it, which is you manually convert it to JSON. And then if you want, you can do You can like filter stuff. So you can say like, I only want to show the title, the description, the ID, and I want to make sure I include the author, but only the author's name. So this was including the author ID, but it didn't have an author or a name. But now if I refresh, do I need to say it? Yes. Now this changed. So now I get an author and I get the name. So this include basically lets me add extra stuff to my JSON that I didn't have before. If I took out this only, and I just did the include, let's, what am I missing? This is fine. Now I get this extra author ID right here, and I get these like created and updated that. So it's like all this information I don't really care about because it's just grabbing everything about the object and it's doing dots of JSON. So that's why you often include these filters, like only, we'll just say title for now.
There's something nil.
What was that?
What if one of those keys is nil? What does it do when it translates into JSON? Let's say it didn't have a title.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's say post.title equals nil. And it just puts null, I guess. Because that's sort of like more like the JavaScript equivalent. So that's just what it puts in JSON. So if I want to include more things, then I just say like description. But this is like pretty messy, right? As far as the code, I have to like specify every single key I want. And then if I want to include other information, because like the reason I'm doing this is because the post belongs to an author. So like I want to include information about the author in here. Maybe I also want the author to have an ID, so I just add this.
Can you do except also, like everything except like we did in Rails?
Yeah, I can do that too. So I could say except. Now I get like these, sort of the inverse.
That's from the author, right? I see.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very powerful.
Yeah, it's super nice, but it's messy, basically. So when I create a JSON representation of my post, I can add whatever things in here I want, but it starts to get complicated. So if I want to simplify it to where I can just say this, and you don't technically need this either. I can just say like render JSON post. So this is going to work, but I'm not getting like the customization I want, right? I get like just the generic info about the post. So I don't love this, but there's a way to customize it that's a little bit less messy than this. I can go.
One way render JSON at post is basically giving you back all the data.
About specifically the post, but not.
But it won't give you what it belongs to.
Yeah, it'll just give me the ID because that's like one of the attributes of the post.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it doesn't give me any other info about like what it belongs to. And there's like, from here, there's no way to like specify. unless I were to do like do JSON or whatever and copy the same stuff I have up here. So there's a way, and that is Rails G serializer. Post. Will that not work? Did I spell it wrong? Probably. Drop into your console. Oh, yeah. Okay. So yeah, interesting. Could not find generator serializer. I wonder if I have an old Rails version. Hi, Lana. It's strange that didn't work. I wonder if, let's see. There used to be a generator and there no longer is, apparently. That's disappointing. Why the heck did they get rid of it? Let's see what they recommend. Or can I not do it because I haven't added this gen? Maybe I need to add this gen. It's already here. Bundle. Cool. So when you have this gem, you can do Rails G serializer post. It creates this folder inside my controllers. No, not inside my, it's inside my app. Alongside my controllers called Serializers, and then it created a post serializer.rb. Now that this exists, my posts are going to refer to that serializer when I say render JSON at post. So theoretically, at this point, since this only says ID, I think I should only get ID on this page when I refresh. Let's test that out. I do not. I get everything. Let's see if I'm missing a step. Interesting. I need to restart my Rails server. That's what it is.
Yeah, I was gonna guess that was my next.
Always a good idea when I'm changing major configurations. Let's see.
Shade in your browser.
Awesome. Now I only get the ID, which is worthless because I obviously already knew the ID if I could even get to this page. So let's add some information. We go here, not here, we go here. So I just here, I don't know.
Title.
Title.
Author.
Cool, we get those. Now,
how do we get the the belongs to. The post belongs to an author.
So we can actually just do another line, say it belongs to author. Now we get the whole author. Now if I want to not get the whole author, then I'll Rails G serializer author. Let's see if that works. Awesome. So now if I go to authors /3, just get that author. Now it may be useful for my author to have a list of all the books they've written. So it has many, or posts, I guess. It's not books. And now I get a list of all the posts by that author. So if I go into Rails, see, I could say like author.find3.posts.create. Title, best tweet, what's the other thing? Description. Everything happens so much. This is a horsey puts tweet. Now if I refresh my page, now we get like, I just wanted to demonstrate, we can show multiple posts by that author that'll show up like in this JSON. Now, one thing that may come up is when I go to posts/1 again, then I get the author's ID in their name. What if but then if I go to like that author's page, so if I go to like authors/1, then I still just have their ID in their name. I still get the posts. What if I wanted to show the hometown on this page? So when I actually go to the author page, I want to see their hometown. Then like that would be a simple thing. I just go into my author serializer, add that. Now it's in here. He doesn't have one set, but problem lies in when I go to posts, maybe it's information overload in here. I don't want their hometown listed. So I believe there's a way around this, which is creating custom serializers for the relationship. I can go Rails G serializer post author. I'll go to my post, and when I say belongs to author, I'm going to specify use that serializer. And now I'll go here and I'll say name. Restart our server. Let's see if that worked. I may have missed a step, but let's check it. Okay. Interesting. So I missed something. That was just from memory, so I don't know. Okay. That's what it is. So in my post serializer, I won't do this, I'll do post. I have to use the actual class name that got generated. Now I get the author's ID and their name for each post, for all my posts. So now if I go to like a particular post, it's the ID and name. But then if I go to authors/1, then I get more information. I get their hometown. So that's in here. So now this serializer is being ignored when I'm in here, when I'm in my post, and I'm trying to say like belongs to author. I'm saying like use a different field for author. It's like a special version of it instead of this one. I want this one to be shown with my posts. And I can do the same here. I can say posts serializer. Maybe I just want to see the titles of my posts when I look at the author. So Rails G serializer post. I'll leave the ID. People take them out. I think it's always nice to have IDs because then it's much easier to look up the actual post if you ever want to. I'll grab this and put it here. I think the rules as far as when to restart your server within this context is if you create a new serializer that didn't exist before, then you need a server restart. But if you change an existing serializer, then Rails will pick it up on the fly. So now I don't have as much information overload. If I go to like this, I get these two posts, their titles, but I'm not overloaded with their descriptions. This is nice because it not only lets you more easily specify what someone gets when they make requests to your server, because especially like with public APIs, there may be information about some of your models that you don't want to display, especially if like people can see users. You don't really want their password digest to show up in here. It's just a hash, so it's not the end of the world if that ever got leaked, but it's still not great. So your serializer allows you to easily specify which attributes are shown, which aren't, and within different contexts. So I could have like 10 different versions of my author serializer, and just like anytime I say anything that belongs to author, I can specify which serializer to use. So then maybe I'd have like an admin class. And an admin would be able to see, would like maybe use different serializers that allow them to see more things, that sort of thing. Does anybody have any questions at this point? They want to stop me and ask. Some of you came through a little bit into like halfway through it, so if it's confusing, definitely stop me. Okay. Let's see. This is pretty much everything demonstrated as far as the basics of using an ActiveModel serializer. One other benefit is, as I mentioned, you get to specify amounts of information that actually shows up in these. That's not only good for like security, it's also just good for the speed of being able to make requests and get responses. The less extra info that you send back down to users that they don't need, the faster the page is going to load. Or if they're using JavaScript, like the faster that function is going to execute. It also will use less data if they are on like a phone, or if their ISP has data caps. Overall, anything that we can do to reduce the actual amount of data being transmitted to users can add up over time if they use the site a lot, or just kind of if a lot of different sites are using good practices with serializers, it can reduce the amount of information that people have to actually download. Just better overall for the web and just for the individual users. It's also handy for you if you're writing JavaScript that has to parse some JSON, so that you can have less junk to parse through. So the serializers are really nice for just making sure you get exactly what you want. Let's see. So just to reiterate, we now can use this line in our controller instead of before we had to use these two lines to get basically the same result. If we go to our post show page, it looks like this, and then if we go back to just this, refresh, you get the same thing. So that's the other added benefit of serializers, is that our controllers are much less complicated. You still may encounter this sort of thing. Definitely still exists out there, but I would recommend using serializers instead, because as you can see, this only has to deal with like a few different, I guess to make it identical, we have to do ID also. A few different attributes, and it's like all this extra code jammed into our controller with like a bunch of sort of confusing syntax. Like if you're missing one of these, it's like hard to figure out what you're missing and why and where. Overall, it's just cleaner to be able to have everything simply set up in their own files. Let's see. What else do you guys want to see? Anything related to this or anything that you've been working on that's confusing to you or interesting to you? Anything?
Yeah, I have a question. So, I mean, it could be that we'll cover this. I'll cover this when I get to it in the curriculum, but is the basic structure that Rails is going to send, we're turning our back end into an API and it sends it to the front end? Is that the goal?
Yep. So, let's see. Because right now, like, if I go to localhost / posts or whatever, then I get like all these posts. We would never really care about displaying this in the browser too much. But the benefit here is from like a React app, I can now fetch or do an AJAX GET request to this URL, and then I get back JSON, which then I can use to like create posts and add them to a page in like a nice clean visual
and how do you
interpretation of it.
And then how would you, the other way around? You could also make posts, I'm assuming. You're going to persist data to the database then.
Yeah, exactly. So serializers aren't super relevant for that because when we make a post request, we just need to include all of the attributes that we want to set. So like a title, a description would be good enough for a post. And an author, I guess, would also be needed. So let's just look at the schema really quick to double check. Yeah, title, description, and author ID. So our Rails app usually is going to have the normal create action. And it already does. And it takes from the params, which when you do a fetch or AJAX request, it can already interpret the params just based on that request. So you don't actually have to change anything in here. So it'll do this, it'll create it. The only difference is instead of rendering the post that you just created on a page, you now just render the JSON version of the post. So that when you create a new post and post that post to the server, then you'll get back some information about what you just created. And status 201, I believe, just means like success creating something, as opposed to 200, which is just like okay.
how do we, I don't know if this is something we would want, but how do you prevent an outside user from accessing your backend then?
Basically, you would do a similar thing as before. There's a few options actually. So um, when you are trying to create a post, if you wanted to make sure that someone was signed in, then you can use something called a JWT, which is JWT. I think it's JSON Web Token. That's what it's called, or what that stands for. Or you can use a session cookie, just like before. But setting up a session cookie in a JavaScript application, the process is a little bit different, but not super different. And then setting up, what's up?
Yeah, my question was more, what if I want to well, I guess maybe, okay, let me re-ask the question. What if I wanted to restrict that the only way a non-admin can access the backend is through the app?
When you create the Rails API in the first place, you can specify an origin URL of where all the requests must come from. So then someone would have to interact with your actual website or page to actually like make any kind of requests. So for some things you want to do that, and some things you want to just basically say it's fair game. For example, the GitHub API, I can access that from anywhere. Because they just want people, I still have to provide stuff in the headers of my request to make sure I'm authorized. So it checks those things when they come in. But I don't have to go onto GitHub to like do things. Like that's part of the purpose of their API is to let me do things from elsewhere. But if the API is not public, if it's just for you to be able to persist data for your own website, then you just whitelist your URL, and then the API is just used from your own like front end that you've designed, and it's not like a thing that is just usable for everybody no matter where they're at. But we'll get to like how to do that later. Any other questions? Let's look at the ActiveModel Serializer lab. Interesting query. Looks like it doesn't have the gem in here. Interesting. You remember what the gem was? Gem. I think it's just active dash model dash serializer. Nope. Not that either. Let's see. That's underscore. That's one does. Maybe. Okay. Remember how this lab works. It may actually have it using manual serializers and you have to convert them. Oh, not even that. So it's straight up just showing views. Render plain is just responding with text rather than JSON. Oh yeah, I didn't show you guys this. So this is a handy feature. You can do a respond to block, which means that when you make like an AJAX request, it automatically asks for JSON. And so you can respond with this JSON. But when you just go through a browser, it'll automatically ask for HTML. So you just render the show page. So you don't have to choose one or the other. Like you can have the same routes, go to the same thing, and just have different types of formats that it can give back, depending on the type of request that's being made. That's what this looks like. Let's see if we can change this to just render at product. Who remembers the steps I need to do to convert this to actually use a serializer instead?
Generate one. Can you generate one Rails G?
Yeah.
Serializer and probably product.
Cool. And now I can just grab these. And I can get rid of all this. And now I'll go to my serializer. And then here. I don't know if there's actually any data to look at, but we'll see. Oh, cool. Interesting. No, couldn't find one with ID 1. I wonder what IDs there are. So let's, the reason it's doing this, by the way, this is not JSON, is for this reason. When I'm in the browser, it automatically shows HTML unless I specify otherwise. Now I can go .json. Interesting. Normally that would work. What do I need to do? Oh, this is the index.
Index.
Only for show that I have this option. So I need to figure out what.
Why don't we go into rel C?
Yeah.
And pick out an ID.
Product first 21. Cool. It's probably because I reseeded and it had already been seeded once. We get this. This is the show. Now I can go 21.json. This. I can also do .html, but that's just redundant. Then I get this. And if I wanted to not show the ID, because it's kind of irrelevant when I'm already here, obviously the ID is 21. Take that off. Kind of just depends on what you want. So that's handy. I'm guessing the lab wanted us to do that. I don't actually know. Wasn't paying attention. Yeah. First thing it wants. Update the product show page to handle the new JSON. Interesting. Wonder what that means. So the show page actually doesn't even have any let's see. No, it does. What's the difference here? What is this for, I wonder? Something to do with the on-click for next. Oh, interesting. Yeah, yeah. So it's already a little bit interactive. So if I go to here and I click next product, I'm getting these. I wonder what needs to be updated here. Oh, sorry, I didn't see your question, Mikey. So as far as wanting to show the JSON, this is actually a good example. So when I click next product, I'm not showing the JSON per se, but that's what the server is sending to this page. Is like I've got, when I click next product, I'm not requesting a new page, but there's a request in the background. And the response is just JSON. And that's much easier for JavaScript to like work with and actually update things on the page. It's like using that JSON. So in my show page, every time I click on this next button, then I go ahead and make this AJAX request, and then I get that data back, and I update these things on the page using that data from like this product variable that I saved it to. Whereas if I didn't respond with JSON, then this AJAX request would have received some like HTML, which like if I just got HTML back, then like it's really hard to like parse out the information I want. I'd have to use a lot more like string parsing to figure out what the price description in inventory is. Whereas like this, I just treat it like an object. Awesome. I'm still confused about this instruction because it seems like it handles the new JSON just fine without me having to do anything. Maybe that's the point. I don't know. Because like when I made the change in my controller to just do this instead of this, then like I'm still rendering the same JSON I was before. I'm just using the serializer. So from like the show page, I feel like nothing actually needs to change. Maybe the test will tell me different, but let's see what they say. Seems happy with it. It doesn't want certain routes to exist, apparently. Let's see what that's about. Let's get rid of them. I see. So I shouldn't have the description route, but products it's not getting, that's what it is. Okay, interesting. So I want this gone, but then on my product index, I want to get the description in there, I think. So I think instead of doing this, I want to get the product ID and I want the description to come in. I won't do these. Awesome. Now I'm just not getting the information I want. So I need to create a new serializer, I think, or change my product serializer. To include the orders. As many orders. Interesting. Different value for inventory than the previous API. I don't know what that means. Just has the number. Wonder what it had before. I don't know. Trying to make it say sold out. I think there's 0. .json. Yeah. I guess we don't need these extra requests. Is the whole thing. Because description and inventory are coming in our original request. So I have to rewrite a lot of this JavaScript, I think, to make this pass.
Why are we using a lot of var when they taught us not to?
I think it's just because these are really old when they were originally written.
Oh, okay.
So you're fine to use let and const. I would recommend it. But when it says var, then like it's not really a problem. It's just there from long ago. But yeah, I think the only thing that would be left at this point is to change my actual JavaScript to like handle the information coming from my serializer now. Because it was making extra requests. So that's one of the benefits of the serializer is now I can include exactly the info I want in here. And I don't have to make all these extra GET requests to different URLs to get the information made. Already got. I guess I just need this one. And then here I'd just like have all the information. But I gotta get going. Thanks everybody for coming. Message me if you run into any questions that you didn't get chance to ask here, or that maybe you didn't think of until you actually run into the material. Talk to you later.